I really appreciate two-way tonight last night and the conversation that was had there. I rewatched it this morning because I couldn't find anything else that was that level-headed, and a good conversation to look at everything from every angle. And this morning's conversation has been great. I guess my question, I don't know that I'm going to have an answer or get an answer for it because I don't know if anybody has the answer. But
If anybody on the planet, it's these two, so you're in good
yeah,
hands.
right. uh, uh, I,
Pressure.
how do we get past this? How do we get past the moment that something like this happens?
Yeah.
The red flag and the blue flag goes up. This
Yeah.
is not political. I mean, it's political in the way that the leaders have made things political, made everything into a political discussion. It's a tragic loss of life. It's also law enforcement doing their job. This is just insane to me that this is you've mentioned a couple of times, Mark, that I haven't talked to anybody that voted for Trump that thinks this way, or anybody that voted for Kamala Harris who thinks this way. I don't care who you voted for.
Yeah.
Her life was lost because really she was interfering with with law enforcement, and law enforcement officers do make mistakes. I don't think that I think they're going to live with this for the rest of their life in a terrible way too. But this is all preventable, and I think the leaders in Minnesota, the governor, the mayor, they're they're just as much to blame for these types of things as Trump is on and the way that he talks. I hate it. I despise
Yeah.
it. They
Chad,
don't want
before,
riots, but
yep,
then they're
yep.
the reason this happens.
Before
Why are
I,
schools shut today?
okay, yeah, before I ask our guests to weigh in on what you said, how do you feel about Secretary Noem saying
Yeah.
that she was a domestic terrorist? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's not a smart thing to do when the investigation isn't complete. I think her overall statement, her last conference last night was
Yeah,
actually really well done. I think
yeah,
she hit her right tone. But then you add that in, and I think that's where you do that partisan thing where it's like this is the red meat to my
right,
people.
right. Okay, thoughts, Yemisi, and then Larry on the original question Chad asked, please.
Yeah, I first want to say agree with glad that two-way exists in this way because Larry and I obviously see this differently, but these are probably some of the only spaces where people are going to talk about it, at
Yeah.
least engage in a conversation about it and still see the other side. So thankful for that. And also, this feels so reminiscent of the moments I was thinking about when Larry was talking about his daughter, of the moments of like the Black Lives Matter. And it's interesting that actual police officers are secondary in this whole situation. And now it feels like it's the community versus ICE. And now we're kind of back into this same cycle. And I'm looking
Mm.
around and I'm just like, guys, we've done this already. We did this and everybody did in the same way that everybody's doing. I mean, now the calls are starting abolish ICE. I think we have to draw a line here somewhere in the same way that we said abolish the police. And now, of course, we know Dems are more centrist on this, saying, well, let's reform the police. And so, if we're going to have conversations about the way ICE is operating in these communities, if we start with abolish ICE, then the conversation never happens. It needs to be okay, if people in the community are uncomfortable with the way that they think ICE engages with members of the community, then can we have a conversation about that? I'm not sure that Secretary Noem is the right person to help lead an agency that really impedes on the lives of everyday people. No other agency really has an effect on some of these day-to-day citizens, and I think you need somebody with maybe a cooler hand, a softer touch, especially when you're operating with President Trump.
Larry.
There's a lot to unpack there. Let me focus on what we agree on. I agree with you on so much of what you said, especially that we're not going to get anywhere when the call is to abolish ICE, which sadly is slowly becoming what appears to be a mainstream position of a major political party in this country. And I want to also be clear, we do look at this differently, but I understand why Yemisi and many people on her side of this political equation look at this the way they look at it. It's a Rorschach test, right? To use an old cliche. I do understand. If you believe that ICE is acting illegally and unconstitutionally, if you believe, like Tim Walz said, that they're the Gestapo, if you believe that it is wrong to enforce our duly passed immigration laws in this country, and in ICE going to these neighborhoods to find criminal illegal immigrants, and deport them. If you think that that is wrong and in some way un-American, then yes, I understand why you would take to the streets to protest. The problem is, and I think to answer your question, Chad, the way we get past this is to go back and agree on the fundamentals that we used to always agree on, that we have a constitution, that if law enforcement is acting improperly, you take that to court and you challenge it, which is what Democrats have done all year, and they have lost. The laws that are being enforced right now by ICE and by DHS are laws that were passed by Democrats in Congress a couple of decades ago and signed into law by Democrat presidents and Republican presidents. Those laws have been on the books for years. They've just been ignored. The way you make change in this country is through the ballot box, and we just had an election, and we have a candidate who ran and said, I'm going to enforce these laws, and here's how I'm going to do it, and he's doing exactly what he said. And if the people don't like it, then they go to their elected representatives, they win the next election, and they change it. They don't march in the streets and impede peace officers, law enforcement who are just trying to do their job. That's how we get past this. We go back to that. We go back to what we agree on, which is use the process that our founders gave us.
Chad, thank you. Great question. Grateful to you.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.